So hello everyone, welcome back to the session on your operating system. So the topic what we were discussing here is nothing but the protection. So in protection we have the last topic what we are going to discuss here is something we call it as access control. This is the topic what we are going to cover today in this particular topic. So in the previous version, we have already discussed about the what we call the different. We have seen in the previous few videos as well as in the few sessions, we have discussed about the different type of things that exist in a particular protection and how we can overcome that particular problems, and at the same time, what we have to do. Something like we have discussed about something called as the goals of protection here. So when you talk about the goals of protection, what we have discussed here related to goal is that we need to provide a maximum protection to the resources and the processes whichever are actually performing operations or tasks within the system. So whichever the system we are having here. Okay, so within a system, you people will be having multiple processes that are executing. So what is the main purpose of protection here is nothing but whatever the process is executing. Okay, so multiple processes are executing means these processes will be accessing the resources. So making sure that whatever the resources that have been accessed by these particular processes, those are not being accessed by other processes. Suppose for example, I have a process one here, I have a process two, process three, and I have here resource one, resource two, and resource three. And here, let us suppose resource one, I am having a single instance, and whereas coming to resource two, I have two instances, and for resource three, I'm having three instances. I think if people are familiar with instances, right? What are instances here? Nothing but how many processes can simultaneously can access that particular resource. For example, if you see R1 here, it has only a single instance. What does that mean? That this particular at a time, only one process can access this particular resource. Why? I'm having only a single instance. Now, if you talk about resource 2, how many instances we do have in resource 2 here in this particular thing? We are having two different instances here. Means at a time, two processes can simultaneously can access this particular resource and can perform the operations. Same way, if you talk about resource 3, we are having three processes. We at a time, three processes can simultaneously access this particular resource and can perform the operation. And one more example which we have taken familiar, we are familiar is something we call it as printer. And in the printer, what did I say that if you people are using a printer, something like of a Canon, which is of a high-end model, so at a time it can handle 10 users. It can handle the commands from the 10 different users simultaneously. Means there will be a queue present here. That queue is what I'm calling it as an instance here. So if you can see here, what I'm representing here, something like a dot is nothing but it's a queue. So here you are having a single queue. Whereas coming to resource 2, you are having two different queues. I mean, two slots are there within a queue. Whereas coming to R3, you are having three different queues. So these are the queues what we have. Same way printer can handle, for example, for 10 users. What does that mean? There are 10 instances. So 10 within a queue, we are having 10 different slots. And one by one, and I think you people are basically familiar with queues, right? So what do you mean by queue? Whichever the person is entering into the first, he will be the first person who will be coming out of this particular queue. That is what we call it as a queue. The best example for this is nothing but your ticket counter. The ticket counter of any brand, you can say something like you people were going for a movie, or you're going to get a bus ticket, or something like you people are trying to get a train ticket or whatever. You people are standing in a queue. So whoever is present in the first will be the first who is going to get that particular what we call the ticket. So same way here also. So that is a queue that we are actually following in this process. So the main goal of this particular protection is making sure that these processes when they are executing, suppose P1 is executing and he is having this particular resource, then no other process should be trying to access this particular resource. Everyone should be restricted. P2 and P3 should be restricted from accessing the resource R1 because already that has been allocated to P1 and he is processing it. Once he releases the resource, then he can access it. That is what the main goal of protection in this particular scenario. And after that, we discussed about something called as principle. Principle of what? Principle of something called as protection. What is the principle of protection we have discussed here? I think I don't know how many of you know. If you don't have any idea, you people can watch the previous video. Okay. So principle of protection, we have discussed about something called as least privileges. Least privileges. As I told you that multiple processes might be present and they will be maybe working in different domains. We do have domains, right? D1, D2, D3. And within these domains, you'll be having certain set of objects, object 1, object 2, object 3. What are these objects here are nothing but the resources. Maybe this is a printer. This might be a file. This might be something your memory allocation, whatever is it that you can assume it. So this is the domain. In this domain, what happens here is that this domain can allow read operation on this particular object. Sorry, for printer you cannot perform read operation, right? You can do something called as write operation. So what you can write is here you people can write it as write operation. And in domain 2, let us suppose, so remaining 2, I don't have any access for this domain 1. In domain 2, I can perform a write operation on a printer, as well as I can perform read operation, write operation, and execute operation onto this particular file. Onto this particular file. So if you talk about D3 here, it might be performing read and write operation. So you can see here, there are these are the one which I wanted to tell you. So if you can see here, there are domains, three different domains. So whenever a particular process is executing in any one of these particular domains, so based upon the files, based upon the resources that this particular domain can allow that particular process to access and perform the operation, only that operations this process can perform. For example, if domain, I mean this particular P1 is actually executing in domain 2, means he can have an access to this particular resource, something called as printer and something called as file. So if you see here file, we have read, write, and execute. So this particular process, when it is performing an operation on this particular file, he is having all the three permissions with respect to performing read operation, write operation, and even executing. Means he can modify the data, he can read the data, and at the same time he can execute the data whatever he is having exactly in this particular scenario. Execute is nothing but a simple example is printing that particular document. So whenever is giving a print means you're giving a write operation on the printer and automatically so that is what we call it as execute. But if it is a program, suppose a file is nothing but a program. I think you people know now how the programs are generally represented xyz dot c, file name dot c. So this is a C program. If it is something like .java, this is a Java file. So if you have something like .py, I think you people are familiar, xyz.py. So this is a Python file. So this is the way how we exactly represent here in this particular thing. So here the principle of protection here is applying least privileges, means if a process is actually executing on a particular file, suppose P1 is executing on a particular file, F1. Okay, and it is in a domain. This file is present in a domain D1. And what are the operations we are allowing into this particular file is read, write, and execute. Now let us suppose that this particular process P1 is trying to use this particular file and perform the operation. Now he wants this particular file only for writing purpose. He wants this particular file F1 only for writing purpose. He doesn't require something called as execution. You don't require execution. Reading is common. Basically, everywhere, every process will be reading the data. Then only we can perform write and execute operation. So here, reading is common. So here in this case, the P1 wanted to access this particular file only for write operation, not for execute. In that case, the principle of protection says that only provide those privileges which this particular process requires. Suppose he want to perform write operation, then only give write operation to this particular process. Don't give execute operation even though that is present in this particular domain. Restrict this process from giving execute command. Okay, so that it cannot misuse that particular command. That is what we call a principle of least privileges that we have discussed it. Then we discussed about something like access matrix. So I think if people are familiar, anyhow, we will be discussing that because this is required for access control. And then we have seen something called as implementation of access control here in this particular case. So in the implementation, we have seen how this access matrix can be represented. We use it something called as a global table and capability list, right? We had discussed certain kind. Then we discussed about something called as keys. Remember this we are going to discuss one more time here because that is coming in your access control. So using global table capabilities and list, we have actually discussed all these scenarios. Now the last topic what we have here is something we call it as access control. So what do you mean by access control in this particular case is nothing but it's an access matrix. So before understanding access control, I just wanted to recall the access matrix so that people can get a familiar idea with respect to this particular thing. So this is what we basically call it as a access matrix, isn't it? A matrix representation which consists of set of rows and set of columns. So these are the rows what we have here. These are the rows we are using here, which represent the domains. And whereas coming to this, these are what we basically call it as columns, right? These are the columns we are using it. And basically, these are the one which represents the resource. You people can basically call it as resource, but the technical term what we are people are going to use here is something called as objects. This is the technical term what we are going to use, objects. So here, how many objects I have here? Four objects: file one, file two, file three, and printer. What kind of file I don't know, but this is a because files are of different types. We are discussed in the previous unit. Like files may be like .c, means these are all source code files. Source code files. Nothing but .c, .java, all these comes under your source code files. But if you talk about some other kind of file, something like .doc, .xls. So this is a document file. This is an Excel file, isn't it? Zip files. So these all things comes under another different type of documents here. This is a normal documentation files what we are having it. So source file is different and this file is particularly different. So here the columns represent source here. So what kind of source we don't know. You people can generally assume it. That's up to you people how to assume it. So here I'm using three different files here and a single printer. So I think you people can understand this is a hardware, this is a software, this is a software, and this one is also a software, and this one comes under printer. Now, if you see here, every domain, we have discussed about two different terminologies here, access list, and we have discussed about capability list in the previous session. Access list and capability list. What do you mean by access list here is nothing but with respect to the columns. Okay, with respect to the columns, whichever the file is there, whatever the operations that can perform, that we are going to represent in a access list. Access list will consist of with respect to objects. So whichever the object is there, this object is so F1 is an object which is with respect to this particular column. So what are the operations it can perform? What are the operations we can perform here? File one, read, write, and read and write are the two operations which we can execute it. So what we are going to do exactly here is we'll be creating a set here. So domain one and domain four. So there will be domain one and domain four. And definitely on domain one, what is operation? This particular F1 we can do read operation. And whereas coming to domain four, we can perform read and write operations. So this is a set. This is a particular set. So you can understand this. This is a pair what we have. So this is nothing but the set of domains what we are having and the set of writes what we can perform on this. So that is what he's talking about. That is what comes under access list. So whenever a particular process comes and works in that particular domain, first we will check this particular means the operating system will be checking this particular list. So for example, he's working in domain one. Okay. So what are the files he can access here? Suppose he can access if we talk about file one. So what are the operations? This is with respect to file one. Same way we have with respect to file two, file three, and then printer. So file one, what is the operations he can perform here? Read operation is the one he can perform here. So whenever the process P1 tries to use this particular file, then he can use it only for reading purpose. He cannot use it for writing because the only permission that is allowed here is read within this particular domain. And he is working or under this particular domain. So that is what he means to say here in this particular scenario. And that is what we call it as access list. And now if you ask me, what about the capability list? We have already discussed here in the previous video. So what is capability list here is nothing but that is with respect to rows. So access list is with respect to columns, means with respect to the objects. So here, the capability list is with respect to the rows. Means, for example, if you consider this particular file F1. So on this particular file F1, within that particular domains, whatever the different operations we can perform, everything we will be reloading into that particular thing. For example, if a D1, if you consider here, so D1 can perform read operation, D4 read and write operation. So in that way, we are going to consider within this capability. Means this is with respect to domain. You will consider a particular domain. So within this role, so this domain have access to which particular files? Can anyone tell me which particular files if here? So I think it's very easy to say that, right? So if you consider this particular domain, he is having this in this domain. What are the files we can access here? File number 1, file number 3. And what are the operations we can perform on those files? Read and read. So only read operation we can perform on file 1 and file 3. So here with respect to that domain, whatever the files we have. So here we'll be representing the set of files and the set of writes. That's up to you how you people are going to represent here set of files. So here the set of files are nothing but whatever, I mean not set of files, set of objects, sorry. You should represent this as set of objects, because those files are what we call it as resource, and those are nothing but objects. So what are the set of objects we have? So here D1 can access object F1, object F3, and these objects have what are the operations we can perform on this object? Only read operation. So here you'll be having a read operation like this. This is a pair we are going to have. So here it will be having F1 comma F3 comma, and what is the operations we can perform here? Read comma read. So this is the way how this is the way how you people can write it in this particular thing pay. So this is what we call it as a access matrix here, and based upon this access matrix we have seen different mechanisms, that is copyright, copy on write, and then we discussed about something called as 2 to 3 variants we have seen, right? Copy and write, normal representation. Then we discussed about write operations. So all the things we have discussed in the previous thing. Now today we are actually discussing about access control. Now, so whatever the access information we have discussed earlier or access matrix, how can we control it? So what is the best way? So protect. So how we can control it here? So the protection here we can apply to non-file resources. Okay, non-file resources in the sense the one which are present in the something called as within the matrix, whatever the matrix you people have seen there. So wherever you're having an empty column, like in the previous one, you have seen that. So but this is a way we had a matrix, right? This is something file 1, 2, 3, and here we had a printer. And here we had something like domain 1, domain 2. And the domain 1 we had read operation, read operation. Let us take. So here we have an empty column here. Now this you people can avoid. So what it means to say here, in order to provide an access control, to reduce the size, we can actually remove the columns which are not present here. Okay, which are, doesn't consist of any kind of write operation that we can consider here. And based on that, we can perform it. And here it is also going to apply the access control is going to apply the concept of principle of protection, that is least privileges. Least privileges means, for example, if we take domain 1, what is the least privilege? What is the operation? Only operation we can perform on file 1 here, read operation. So it will be giving only read operation in that. No write operation, no execute operation. Same way it will not consider second file. Why? Because second file doesn't consist of any information or any operation that can be performed when any process is present in this domain. So what are the files it can access? File 1 and 3. So definitely it will be taking consideration of file 1 and 3. This file 2 it will simply ignore. Same way the file, I mean the printer will also be ignored. That is what he is calling it as privileges. These privileges are applied. How it is applied is nothing but based upon role based access control. We have RBAC. RBS is nothing but role based, means based upon the role, whatever the process, suppose whichever the process is executing it, first it will determine the role of that particular process. What is the role of that particular process he's going to do? So he's going to perform a read operation on a file. So he will be given only a read permission to perform the operation. He will not be given write operation. He will not be given a execute operation in order to perform it. That is what he means to say exactly in this particular scenario. Privilege is nothing but giving permissions. So if this particular process want to perform a read operation on a particular file, so first we'll find out whether in that domain we have a read operation or not. Yes, it is possible. Then only we will give a read operation to this particular process. We will not give it any of the write operation or execute operation in order to do that. That comes under here privilege. Okay, so you might be saying that there is something written as Solaris. Now here, Oracle Solaris 10, which is actually developed by Sun Microsystem. I think you people are already familiar with this, right? Sun Microsystem. These are the one who have actually adopted Java. They are the one who has taken over this particular Java. Earlier, Java was built as a separate company, but later on, Sun Microsystems they actually work on these are the one who actually these are the one who actually developed this Java. I'm sorry, Sun Microsystem is the company which actually developed this Java. Now Oracle has taken over this particular Java. And they have just purchased this Java from this particular company called as Sun Microsystem. They were the founders for Java. So here Oracle, what they started once they have purchased the Java, then they started implementing this. So here, this using Java, they used to provide permissions with respect to this particular things. Now, another thing that they have actually started implementing here in this particular scenario is nothing but roles. What they actually did is, we know whatever the privileges we are having with respect to a particular resources, with respect to a particular domain, they actually clubbed them, tied together, and they made it in the format of a role. For example, if you see here, role one. So they have created one role, in which role they are having privileges. So there are two privileges that are performed. Maybe this is a read. You can assume anything. This is a read or this is a write. Or you can assume that this is a write or execute. That's up to you people, how you people want to. So privilege is nothing but giving permission to perform the operation. What operation? So and we know that only three operations are the one which we can give a permission to the any of the user, that is read, write, and execute. Okay. And do you people, and when we were discussing about Unix, I told you that there are three different type of if a particular file you people are accessing it, there are three different type of groups we have. I don't know how many of you remember. Like for example, in Unix, you might have seen something rwx hyphen rwx hyphen rwx. And I told you that this belongs to one particular group. This is the permissions belong to one particular group, and this is the one which has belong to one particular group. And what are the three different groups we have here is something we call it as universal. I don't know how many of you remember. First one is owner, next is universal, and the list of users. Okay, or you can universal, you can call it as a group. Better you call it as a group here, and the list of users you can call it as a universal. So the owners, we have a owner here, we have a group, and then list of users. What do you mean by owner here? Whoever has actually created that particular file, he is the owner. For example, roll number one is there. She is the one who has created a file xyz.doc. She has created a file xyz. So she is the owner of this particular file. She has all the three controls: read, write, execute. That is what comes under here, owner. And after that, we have group. What do you mean by group here? Now she is willing to share this particular file. This is the only file which she has written. Something you can assume as assignment. You people have a habit of copying the files, right? You people generally do that. So here let us assume that this is a file she has created, and on this file she wanted to share it with her group. Let us suppose she is having a group of 5 friends. She is having a group which consists of 5 friends. So she is going to share this particular file with among these particular 5 friends. That is what comes under here, group. Okay, so show group of 5 students, she has shared this particular file. And what are the permissions? Now the roll number one can decide whether I should give read, write, and execute permission to that particular file, or shall I give only read permission? No write permission and no write execute. So that depends upon to the user, I mean the roll number one, when she is sending that particular file to a particular group. Okay, sorry for the interruption. Yeah. So that is what he means to say here exactly in this particular thing. So those are what we call it as privileges. Now here, what exactly the system, what they're saying here is that these particular privileges means whatever the access rights are there, we can combine together, the system can combine together and represent in a format of a role. So whenever a particular user is going to perform, we will be merging, or this particular user will be requesting for this particular role. Okay, there will be multiple roles, role 1, 2, 3. For simplicity, we have shown you only single role. So here the user one is trying to access this particular role. So whatever the access permission means, access rights are there, only that operations, that privileges are nothing but what did I say? These are nothing but the operations what we can perform. What are the operations we have? Read, write, execute. So only this. So among them, only two privileges are given here. So whenever a user is going to execute, he will request for a particular role. And when that particular role is given, whatever the privileges are there, only that privileges this particular user can execute. He cannot try to, for example, here this is read and write. Now this user, when he is using a particular file using this role, he can perform read and write operations. But in case he want to execute that particular file, immediately the operating system will stop that particular process from doing it because he is not having the permission to do that. That is what comes under here, something called as privileges. Okay, that is the main purpose of this particular role. So you can see here the user has requested for role 1 and now this role is given to a particular process. You can see here the executes with role 1 privileges. So whenever a user is actually executing any task, definitely a process is created. Now this process will be using these privileges, for example, read and write, and using this it will be performing the task whatever is been assigned by this particular user. This is the way how exactly it does. Now, for example, I'm showing you this presentation. I'm moving a pointer like this. I'm erasing it. So what I'm doing exactly here. So for each and every task, a process is created. When the whatever the slide you people are seeing, this is being executed by one process within my system. Let us suppose P1 is the one. Now P1 is responsible for executing this particular slides. Whatever the slides you're seeing now, protection, for this and whatever the content you people are seeing here, everything should be displayed by one particular process, and whatever the resources are required by that particular process, that will be represented by this particular system. So all these resources are given by the system, remember that. So that's how exactly this access threads, you might have understood now how these access threads are exactly implemented, how they are controlled. Okay, controlling is nothing but something. Okay, so again there is a small hangover. Yeah. So access is the means, so access control is nothing but making sure that whatever the basic requirements are required by a particular process to execute, only that resources and that operations are allowed for that particular process to execute. Now the next thing what we have here is something we call it as revocation. What do you mean by revocation? Okay, let me show you the slides and then I'll explain it. Yeah. So what do you mean by revocation? First understand this. The revocation is nothing but there are different names, something like stopping up from one operation, or you can call killing an operation. Killing is actually I think this is not a good terminology to say. Best thing is stopping means it will not be executing again. That is what we call revocation. Okay, revocation is nothing but something like stopping one particular operation, like within the matrix. That's the reason I have been showing you the matrix. I think you people now understand that's this access matrix, right? So we had here something called file 1, file 2, file 3. Just I'm taking 3 files here. And here I had domain 1, domain 2, and domain 3. So here we said something called read. Here we had read and write operation. Now revocation in the sense, for example, you people have applied this revocation on this particular domain. That means that any one of the operation you wanted to delete. For example, in the first time when we executed within this domain, whenever the particular file is accessed F1, then any process can perform read and write operation. That is what we discussed. Revocation in the sense like later after performing that, after some time, I don't want domain 3, whichever the process is entering into domain 3, it is accessing a file 1. I don't want that file to perform write operation. So what I will do is I will delete this write operation. I have the power to delete it. So means within the system, so I'll simply delete it. And that is what we call it as revocation, killing it up. Okay, much more terminology. Means if any process is coming into this particular domain and it is accessing this particular file next time, so it can only perform read operation on that particular file. What about write operation? Means it can't perform the write operation. Why? Because that is not there. So that is what comes under here. We call it as revocation. Now here there are various ways of options are there in order to remove the access right. Okay, the best way to say revocation is nothing but removing the access right. You can consider that also. So here the what are the different options are there based on which we can perform this removing of the access right is nothing but with respect to immediate versus delayed, selective versus general, partial versus total, and then temporary versus permanent. If you talk about immediate versus delayed, what does that means is that whenever you're trying to remove an access right, first we have to determine whether that particular revocation means the removing of that particular access right has taken place immediately or it is getting slowed. Okay, slowed in the sense nothing but it is taking some time to remove that particular operation whichever is there. So if the operation is delayed, then we have to find out that how much time it is going to take in order to when it is going to take place, means how much time it is going to take in order to delete that particular operation and when it is going to remove it, so that if the next process is requesting, we should make sure that that particular operation or the whatever the access right is read, you wanted to remove it. That comes under into this particular scenario. Next is selective versus general. What do you mean by selective versus general? Here is nothing but you know that every object is having some access rights, right? Read, write, execute. Objects are nothing but the resources, file one, file two, so on. Now, whenever you're removing, like within the matrix, I have removed here read and write was there. I removed write. Now the question is that whether that particular write operation which I deleted, is it with respect to every process which is using that domain or only to some processes it is going to perform that effect. Like for example, P1 is there, P2 is there. This is a matrix I'm having. So in the domain 3, in the file 1, read and write is there. Later on, I removed write. So what is the only operation I have left with respect to file 1 here is read operation. Now the question is that whether these particular processes P1 and P2, when they are coming and accessing this particular domain D3, will they be only able to apply read operation, or is it specific to one particular process? Maybe process one, when it is accessing domain 3, he can perform only read operation. But later when process P2 is executing in domain 3, he may be given read and write permissions. So that is what he's saying. So that is what, is it a selective to a certain number of group of users, or whether it is for every user? General means for everyone, or is it only to selective people who are selective number of users will be removing that particular rights. Next is partial versus total. So what do you mean by partial versus total is nothing but whenever you're removing this particular right with respect to a particular domain, considering that particular object, whether it will be partially removed or it is totally permanently removed. If it is permanently removed, then that there is no way of bringing that particular method, I mean operation on that particular. For example, if you're removing this right operation here in this case, then the file, there is no way that if it is total, I mean totally you're removing it, then the file will not be able to perform write operation in this. Only read operation is the one which I can perform on this particular file. Partially means sometimes for few seconds or few minutes or few number of sessions, we have removed write operation. Later on, again, this write operation will come into picture. That is what comes under here, something called as partial. Okay. So I hope you people are getting it. So these are the normal discussion related to protection, how we can provide protection to access matrix using which we are allocating the resources and all. Next, we have temporary versus permanent. So whatever, so same thing, same similar to the partial versus total. So whenever you're removing a particular operation with respect to a particular file, is it a permanent? Permanent means next time, anytime until that particular file, that object exists, until that object exists there, we will not be able to perform write operation in domain 3. Maybe in domain 2 you may be able to perform it, or maybe in domain 1 you are able to perform it. But in domain 3, until this object is existing, you will not be able to execute a write operation on that. That's what we call permanent. Temporary in the sense whether it is only for certain number of sessions or certain periodic time, and after that maybe that particular operation can be revoked. That is what he means to say exactly here in this particular thing. Now here, in order to remove the access rights, he is asking you that you can either use access list in order to remove the access list, because that's the reason that I have discussed access list and capability list in the previously in the beginning. So what do you mean by access list here is nothing but this is with respect to columns, isn't it? Within a matrix. So file one, file two. So with respect to this particular file one, this column I'm going to consider. So whatever the operations are present, we are going to perform on this particular file with respect to the domain. So we will be having the list. So we will simply delete. So whenever you wanted to remove one of the method from this particular file, I'll simply select that particular access list. I'll search this access list, and wherever I got that particular whichever the function I wanted to delete, whichever the operation I wanted to delete, I'll go there and simply delete it. So that is what comes under your access list. Now this access list implementation can be either simple in the sense that searching a list, I think searching a particular access list is very simple. That is represented in a format of a table, right? We have already discussed it. We have a global table when we were actually discussing about something called as access matrix. How can we implement access matrix when we were discussing it? One of the method is global tables. In the global table, we will search this access list, and wherever that is available, once we'll do comparison. Once we got that, we'll simply remove that particular operation, whatever we can perform. That is read, write, or execute. Now here, the same thing is saying that access list can be immediate, general, selective, total, partial, permanent. So whatever we have discussed here, all this is explaining here in this particular scenario. Okay. The other way how we can do it is nothing but revocation can be done using capability list. Now capability list is with respect to what? I think you people know that it is with respect to rows, isn't it? With respect to rows, I guess you people remember it. Rows are nothing but domains. With respect to domains, he is giving this particular thing. So here also we have some different methodologies using which we people can perform this revocation thing. That is removing the access rights. How? First is reacquisition, back pointers, indirection. What do you mean by reacquisition here is at a certain period of time, whatever the capabilities we are having, those will be deleted with respect to the domains. So capability is nothing but, for example, domain one is there. So here file one was there, this is read. So all this with respect to this particular domain, read file one, file two, file three. And here I have write. So this domain will consist of file one, comma, file three, read, comma, write, like this, isn't it? So here what he's saying is at a certain period of time, these particular capabilities, this is a capability, these capabilities are removed at certain period of time. Again they are inserted, again they are removed. In this way they actually works. That's what we call it as reacquisition. So here whenever that particular, so suppose for example a particular process is trying to work in a domain 3, and in that whatever the capability list is, this has been deleted. Then what this process will do is it will try to reacquire that particular access rights, reacquire this capability list. Means he will be recreating, he will ask to recreate that particular capability list, and it will be using this particular. But remember, as we are discussed in the previous slide, if it is permanently, if this capability list is removed permanently, if this capability list is removed permanently, then even though he is calling reacquisition for that particular thing, it can't do it. Why? Because this is removed permanently. And once that permanently this particular list is removed, then definitely we cannot execute or we cannot try to get back. This is something like, if we had a big loss, something we had a big loss and that never can be recovered, something like that. Okay. And next we have something called as back pointer. So every access list or this capabilities will be having some set of pointers. We usually call it as a back pointers. So these back pointer like pointer one, pointer two, pointer three, pointer four, these are actually associated with capability one. Assume it. So here, whenever you wanted to delete a particular operation with respect to this capability, you can directly search for these particular pointers, and wherever that pointer is located, just get access to that. Come here, remove that particular capability and perform your function. That is what comes under your back pointers. Then we have indirection. Basically what he means to say here is whatever the capabilities we are representing here, these are not represented directly. These are not represented directly to domains. These are indirectly pointed. These are not directly pointed, these are indirectly pointed to this particular domains. So here, and how these are represented is nothing but using a global table. Okay, see, everything is related to your access matrix. So global matrix where we come across here, nothing but in access matrix. So here, whenever this is indirectly represented means whatever the data is present, that data will be stored in this global table. So by searching this particular global table, we can reach to the particular location wherever we wanted to remove or read, write, or execute operation. That is what is saying exactly here. The last but not the least, what we have here is keys. Okay, so keys are the one which already we discussed it. These are the unique bit pattern what we have, and these are actually generated whenever a capability is created. Suppose C1 is created with respect to domain 1. So then a particular key will be generated, and this key will be a unique one. This key will be unique, something like your IDs. Your IDs are very unique. So whenever you entered into this particular college in the first year, you people have got a unique ID. Same way, this key is generated whenever a capability has been created. Suppose C2 is created for with respect to domain 2, then maybe key 2 is the one which has been created for this. And whenever you want to access it using this particular key, until this capability exists, this key will be there. When this capability is destroyed, this key will also get destroyed. That is what he means to say exactly here in this particular scenario. Okay, and apart from this particular key, I have one more key here, master key. Okay, this master key is associated with objects. Okay, this master key is actually associated. Already we have discussed it. So we have a key here, we have a master key here. So both this is so now this master key can be changed. This master key can be changed, it can be modified, that is up to it. But whereas coming to this particular key, this is unique. It can never be changed. Now, whenever you want to remove a particular operation, that is read, write, or execute from any of this particular thing, you'll be simply matching this key with the master key. Wherever this key is going to match with this particular master key, immediate there you will be search, and then based on that, whatever the operation you want to delete, you can delete it as you like. That read, write, or whatever the operation you want to do it. So here revocation can create a new master key. As I told you that master key can be modified. So revocation can create a different modifiers. And based on that, the policy decisions can keep on changing. Okay. So whatever the different policy decisions we are having with respect to owner or something like that. So all these can be changed as per the requirement. Well, I hope you people have understood this particular topics. This is all we have with respect to your protection topic. Okay. So thank you for watching.